concern is that the traffic in the afternoon and in the morning with the parents coming from the middle school might last 20 minutes or a half hour. And I understand that the town's concern was there would be a backup at the light for someone that might want to go in that area. And that would be the concern. I think the people of Middlebury are smart enough to open up a space and let them hold it. I mean, I can't believe you're going to get rid of that entranceway, that piece of property. It's crazy, only because there's a light there. That's all I have to say.
Any, yes?
Farhad Khan, I own the dollar store there,
Mhm.
and I agree with Tony about my customer exiting the store, and if they have to make a left turn on the Court Street, that's going to be a lot of challenges because of people try to take a left turn at the light, and there's a lot of traffic. I can't make a left turn if I want to now, and that middle road is an easement for us. I think it makes it easier to have that open.
But as I understand it, the applicants, you're not proposing an easement for the parking lot at the front of the dollar store to the north of your property, right? I mean, people use that now to go in and out, but there's no right there for them to do that, as I understand it.
I would agree it's been by consent to just allow people to travel across the paved portions of the property. I guess I would say that we see both sides of the issue, and the primary objective from our perspective is to allow flexibility for future development of the lot for marketability purposes. So, you know, I don't know if it's possible to have your cake and eat it too, I guess, is the problem.
Other comments or questions? Tony?
Sorry to bring it up again. It's so hard to get a traffic light anywhere in Vermont for anything. Everybody'd rather see a roundabout. Well, if you could solve the problem and let them use that, put a roundabout there. Get rid of the light. The problem is, the fact that the light is there is so important to every piece of property connected to it. Whether it's the dollar store, or the old bowling alley, or a piece of property that I'm interested in. I mean, I still don't understand the variance of the right-of-way between, I don't care about that. But that entrance to that property, I mean, if I owned it, I'd be screaming bloody murder. I'm
I'd
just
like
here
to
to
also
tell you why
clarify
that.
so the owner's preference is to really focus on selling it and to
Right.
selling both the lots. And to do that, they need to subdivide it.
But beyond that, that light is so important to that street.
And that's where I was going with it. The owner's strong preference would be to keep that curb cut. But if that is not an option, their overall preference is to do what they have to do to subdivide it. But having said that, they very much value that curb cut for people coming into the front lot there.
Okay. Other questions or comments at this time?
I have a question
Sure.
for staff. In the notes, Dave, it talks about laying the groundwork for an access road. I don't see where there's space for that.
You want to address that, Jan?
So you laid the groundwork for a possible access road in that area, that's where the space
Oh, that's what you mean.
is, with an easement.
I see, okay. I thought you meant closer to Route 7.
No, just parallel to.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I heard two things. I heard Mr. Khan say that access out there is an easement, and I heard the applicant say it's by custom, not an easement. So there is no legal right across the property right.
I'm not aware of any easement.
Other questions or comments at this time? Okay. Anything else from the public? Okay, I'll close the public aspect of the hearing of this case. What's the pleasure of the board at this time?
Would deliberative session be appropriate at this time?
Sure.
At this time or after we've heard the other
Well,
application?
we'll do them all
them
together.
both together.
Make a motion, we move to deliberative session at the end of this.
Okay, there's a motion to move to the deliberative session after we've heard the rest of the cases. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion on that motion. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Can we take a break?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Going to have a short break. The next application, the DRB will conduct a hearing pursuant to sections 753 and 1090 to determine whether the Blue Spruce Motel structure destroyed by fire on July 13, 2017 has been abandoned, and whether the lack of maintenance has given rise to conditions outlined in section 753. The property is located at 2028 Route 7 South in the agricultural rural district, parcel 08146. Following is the oath for interested persons, applicants, and those who wish to participate in the hearing. Do you affirm that the evidence and information you are giving in this proceeding is accurate and true to the best of your knowledge and belief? If you raise your hand for anybody. At this time, I would ask members of the board if any member has a conflict of interest regarding this application. Also at this time, does any member wish to disclose any ex parte conversations concerning this case? Hearing none. Okay. Representing the town, we have Kathleen Ramsey here with us. So Kathleen, if you...
Yes, thank you for holding this hearing. On August 28th, the Select Board authorized me to lodge a complaint with the DRB pursuant to Section 7. Okay. I'm acting on behalf of the Select Board. I've lodged a complaint pursuant to Section 753, Roman numeral 2 of the Middlebury zoning bylaw. The complaint specifically asserts that the lack of maintenance of the Blue Spruce Motel property has given rise to any or all of the following conditions. 1, a threat to public health and safety. 2, an undue adverse impact on the aesthetics of the neighborhood and the surrounding area. And 3, caused an undue adverse impact on neighboring property values.
And what the town is asking us is to decide whether, in our opinion, the property has been abandoned.
That's right.
Now, is the owner of this property here? Would you like to come up and say anything? Okay, did you raise your hand when I gave the oath? You did? Okay. Is there something you would like, first, if you would give us your name, and then...
I'm Sam, and I'm one of the partners in the corporation. And very soon...
Sam is your first name?
Yes, sir.
And your last name?
Sharma, S-H-A-R-M-A.
Thank you. Okay.
Very soon we start doing the demolish work because my partner got a stroke and he can't drive or flying. He's in South Carolina. So we have a discuss, plus insurance have some issues, so maybe within this month we start the demo work.
Okay? That's helpful.
I have a talk going on with 2-3 companies. One is Earth Waste, and one fellow is here right now. And there's a one company from Barrie, Vermont. They already checked the properties and they're gonna quote me the demo fees, what is the charges and stuff. And we are planning to do very soon, ASAP.
Okay. Is there any way for you to give us any sort of a completion date, whether it's 30 days or 3 months or some idea?
3 months is enough,
Okay,
max 3 months.
okay.
It should be before, but for the safe side, I'm saying 3 months.
Okay. Questions from the board at this time?
Have you had an ongoing discussion with the town at all? Or is this the first time that,
No, I was meet with town people before, and we was, if everything going smoothly, we are trying to make the model again.
okay,
So that's all is going on right now.
So your intent is to rebuild?
Yes.
so your plan is now is to continue to discuss with the town as to where we're going with this and timeframe?
Yes, sir, when we demolish the thing and then we can
That makes
come back
good
again
sense.
with the application with the town.
Just to clarify, the 3-month commitment was the commitment to complete the demo and cleanup work?
Yes, sir.
Not to start it, right? to
Just the
complete it.
demo.
Have some questions.
Just a second. Any other questions from the board at this time? Any further questions from staff? How's that?
I have one or two, but I can come back, if you want to come back to me after the public comment, that's fine.
Okay, sure. All right, I'll open it up to the public. Did you raise your hand?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
If this gets
Your
demoed and it all,
Your name, please.
my name is Bernard Cannell.
Thank you.
If this gets demoed, will this go back, revert back to farmland, or will it still be a motel lot? Yeah.
It won't go back to farmland, well, it could. The owners will have to answer that, but they have the right to apply to rebuild the motel.
So if somebody buys it, can they apply to rebuild a motel? Is there a chance that it will be a motel again? Will the board refuse it?
Well, that's 3 questions.
You've answered 2 questions. One's behind the other.
Okay. Some of them I can't answer any of them because we don't have an application. The pre-existing use has elapsed, so they have to come back to the board for a new application for a
So what
motel.
I'm asking is, the board's supposed to know what they're doing. Is there a chance that it can be a motel again? Because if I were to buy it, I would sure as hell wouldn't want to revert back to farmland, because I'm paying motel price for it. Is what I'm trying to find out.
Well, yes, we
I'm not
could,
buying a pig in a blanket, I'm buying the
Well-
blanket with the pig on top.
okay. I cannot answer the question whether, the board has the ability to approve it as a motel. And there's a way for you, if that's what your intent is, there is a way for you to do that before you actually
Purchase it.
it.
Well, I need to know the way.
Okay, well, you would have to come with an application.
So that comes in 3 months.
Say that again?
That would come in within the 3 months.
No, well, no, you can, there's no time limit.
I'm the one that's gonna tear it down. And I don't wanna
We
start
can
tearing it
accept-
down until I get a permit.
Well, that's,
I think, Bernard, you need to come in and have a discussion with the staff,
I've had a discussion with the staff, I've had many discussions with the staff.
okay?
I can't, they won't, been talked around in circles. If I buy it, I don't know what I can do with it.
The hearing tonight, though, is about abandonment and removal of the debris. And that's all we're going to decide this evening, as I understand it.
Correct.
That's all we can decide.
I have another question
Sure.
for the owner. When you talk about starting destruction within the month, do you anticipate removing all that, all the materials that are there and leveling the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other questions from the public? Do you have any more questions, Bernie?
If I buy it, am I committed to be the new owner and tear it down?
Say that again?
Am I committed to tear it down if I buy it before, as a new owner?
I think the same process would follow as what we're doing right tonight.
Yes.
I don't think that would change anything.
The problem is not the ownership of the property.
Right.
The problem is the condition of the property.
Right.
That's what we're trying to,
Well, I'm trying to find out if I can do something with the property. I don't wanna face this board and split $30,000 and tearing that all apart and say, well, I can have a lot. I don't want a lot, I want a building. I wanna put a motel back.
well, we can't act on that because we have no plan. This hearing is solely for solving the problem that exists right there now. And that is, in the opinion of
So
some,
when do we have a next meeting, when we apply for the next meeting?
you can apply at any time for this parcel.
Oh, I've applied to her a few times and I haven't heard a word yet. They said I gotta go,
Well, when I say apply, you have to have a plan.
That's what we told you, that was the hang-up. You didn't want to create a plan, so Kevin's saying what we said. You have to have a plan, and then we can put you in front of the board. Can I add one thing?
Yes.
That you would only have, since this is a non-conforming use, you only have 4 years from the time that the use was discontinued to reapply for that non-conforming use. So the DRB only has the privilege to grant that non-conforming use within a 4-year period. But it's okay if you take the building down, you can still apply for this non-conforming use to get that back again.
so I'm in within the 4 years.
Oh, you're still within the 4 years, just I'm letting you know ahead of time, and all these people are my witness, Bernie, that I told you.
She's on video too.
That's true.
You mean I won't have to go through a PUD to put that up?
Might,
I might,
you should.
I'm out.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you said there was a representative here from Earth Waste? Is there someone here from Earth Waste?
No, nobody come today.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. But I have a email going on with them.
I misunderstood, sorry. So the 3-month span, does that include, did they tell you that included the asbestos testing and asbestos removal and then removal of the building? Or do you think there may be time added to that for environmental testing?
Asbestos is, I think, depend on the state
Uh-huh,
and how quick they come and check.
yeah.
I have no idea, but I doubt it there's any asbestos.
Mm-hmm. So to get a realistic timeline, I think we might need to talk to his environmental contractor or something like that. I think 3 months might be a little bit, short.
Okay.
If in case there is asbestos, then it should be a short time.
So Jennifer, can we say 3 months, and then at the end of 3 months, it's not what we expect to be, can we revisit this again?
That's a thought.
Well, we can
should
make the
perhaps
decision,
discuss that.
we can make the decision tonight that it is abandoned and is in need of cleanup.
Right.
That decision will stand.
But I think the
What
property
do they
owner has
mean?
already agreed that he will do it.
Okay,
We need to set
we,
a time.
yes, we need to decide whether it is abandoned or not.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see how it can be abandoned if he says he owns it and he plans on cleaning it up in 3 months. I
Well-
don't think that's a clear case of abandonment.
There's a definition.
It's in the definition.
Yeah.
It is.
I view a lot of abandoned properties on a regular basis, and believe me, the law is pretty thick on what abandoned property is. I don't think that's abandoned property.
Well, according to our zoning.
I agree.
Okay.
His
Huh?
attorney might tell you differently.
Well, of course.
If you consider abandoned, who owns it?
He owns it.
Well, if it's abandoned, he doesn't own it.
I didn't say it was abandoned.
Well, if it gets abandoned, who owns it?
Abandoned under the rules simply means that the board has authority to make requirements of the owner.
I would add we move this to a different session. Right.
Okay, before you do that, are there any more questions from the public?
We have 3 cabin in the backside, and that is not burned. What about that? We don't need to demolish that.
Yeah, there's
It's nothing,
nothing burned about it.
no.
I think we're concentrating on the burn aspect of the property.
We are concentrated on the front building, which one burned. But the
Yeah.
back 3 cabin is
Yeah,
intact.
if they're separated from the burn portions.
They are separated.
That's right, I don't think we're concerned about that at this time. Okay, any more questions from the board at this time? Okay, now Donald, if you would like to make a motion,
I'd like to move that we move this into deliberative session.
is there a second to that motion? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried, thank you.
Okay. I thought you wrote me a note. I was like,
Do a little myself.
If you separate them some more, you'll get a better picture. You pull the one that's near me, closer to me. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, the next application is a request by Habitat for Humanity of Addison County for final conditional use and subdivision approval pursuant to sections 540, 560, and for 2 separate residential units on parcel 1 to be held in common land for the benefits of residents. Applicants also request a front yard setback waiver pursuant to section 724. Previous to this hearing, the applicants received a preliminary determination from the DRB dated June 7th, 2018. The property is located at 51 Seymour Street in the high-density residential district, parcel 2100100. The following is the oath, DRB oath for applicants, interested persons, and those who wish to participate in the hearing tonight. Do you affirm that the evidence and information you are giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief? If you would raise your hand for anybody that thinks they might want to participate. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself as I've received a set of prints for some mechanical involvement.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else that has a conflict in this matter. Also, at this time, does any member wish to disclose ex parte conversations concerning this case?
Ex parte conversations with most of the neighbors.
Okay.
When I went to look at the property, the neighbor to the south, Rick Davignon, came to tell me about an issue he has and said he would be here this evening to present it. I don't see him.
Okay. If you would like to present the project, if you would indicate your name when you step forward, we would appreciate it.
Great. I'll begin. I'm Ashley Cadwell. I'm the chair of the building committee for the Habitat for Humanity. Many of the board is here tonight in support, and I want to begin by thanking my fellow board members for their undivided and great support for this project throughout its design process. Secondly, I want to thank Lou Colasanti and the top-notch affordable housing or affordable homes for their generous donation of 3,000 square feet to the rear of our property, which therefore now makes the property qualify for 2 happy homeowners, not 1. Thirdly, I want to thank Otter Creek Engineering and Brent Rakowski for helping us to design the parking and stormwater runoff that solves the issues raised by the letter from the board on June 7th. Next, I want to thank the Middlebury College design team and the skillful, and I might add, very patient guidance of John McLeod, who not only have designed 2 homes that, in a very refreshing way, fit the vernacular of the neighborhood, but also meet the highest standards of energy efficiency on the market today. Lastly, just as an aside, I'd like to thank Jen Marie and David Wetmore for their very kind and gentle and clear guidance in this process, which to an old fart like me can be kind of confusing at times. They were great. And finally, I want to thank you for your good guidance through this process. So now on from this volunteer to the experts.
I gotta change this.
Okay. Pause. Do you want me to make a continuing statement for that tape? Okay, we're continuing the meeting on November 5th, 2018, and we're on the application for Habitat for Humanity. Okay, you'd like to?
Hi, my name is Brent Rakowski. I'm with Otter Creek Engineering. We are the civil site engineers for this project, assisting Habitat and working with John and the group from the college on this. Our understanding is that there were some items that were brought up at the last hearing. I'd like to speak specifically to those. But having said that, what I'd like to also do is just give a quick overview or just a summarization in terms of the utilities on the project. We're proposing a municipal water connection for both residences. We will reuse an existing water service that previously served the single-family building that was on the property that was demolished. And we will be running a new water service to serve the proposed residence at the rear of the property. In addition to that, the rear building will have a pump station. Because of grades, we can't gravity feed into the city or the town's collection system, so we'll be pumping waste in a grinder pump station that will just come up to a proposed new manhole that we'll be tying into. We've had preliminary conversations with the town public works department, both water and wastewater, and have essentially received confirmation of this design approach. There will be buried electric service to each of the residences. Okay. And as was pointed out earlier, there will be, or probably during the past meeting, was a new gravel drive, so a 14-foot wide gravel drive to serve each of these properties with 2 parking spaces. And the parking space sizes are in conformance with the town zoning requirements. So in terms of the stormwater, which I believe is what the board wanted to focus on this evening, one of the things that we looked at from a design standpoint is obviously the regulations, but we take a holistic type of look at what's happening in the surrounding area. If those of you who've been out to the site, towards the rear of the property, essentially, I want to say where there's some parking spaces shown for the rear residence, which is building B. There's actually a small, I don't want to call it a drainage way or a stream channel, but it's just a natural depression that runs through that portion of the parking lot. Upstream of that, or uphill of it, which would be to the north towards outer side in that area, is the high point. So any water that's falls or any stormwater runoff that we get is coming really from an area that's about 3.5 acres in size, so relatively small from a stormwater side of things. That water falls down through the natural path, natural grades through the backyards, and follows a low point that actually cuts through where those 2 parking spaces are. Now, what we're attempting to do is maintain that flow path by this project. We don't want to dam it up. We don't want to. We want to make sure that the water is flowing as it naturally does after the project is constructed. So with that in mind, we did hear. I think we heard some comment that there may be some ponding of stormwater on the property to the north. And what we did is we continued the grade, which was at an elevation of 346. I don't know if you can see on the plan there. But that was really at the north end of the property, so 346. And what we did is we extended that area and made it a little bit larger. So when there is a larger rainfall event, we're building some extra capacity into the property, the habitat's property. Really, it's giving it that stormwater some place to go and potentially sit, as opposed to it sitting on the neighbor's property.
So Brent, we're talking about this whole area?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, John. Yeah. So we've actually expanded that, made that area a little bit wider so that stormwater could sit in there if need be. And then what we did is knowing that we have to get rid of it at some point, because the underlying soils in this area are Addison County clays. We cannot infiltrate it into the ground. There's no way to get it into the ground. Okay. So we put in a small culvert, 12-inch diameter. Should be sufficient for a watershed of this size, 3.5 acres. Okay. And we routed that water from our, I don't want to call it a pond, but we expanded that area to give it more capacity during a heavy rainfall event. Now that water will outfall where it always has on the north side of the property to the south. And we are installing, at the outlet of that pipe, we're putting in stone riprap. Now really that riprap is intended to just disperse the water, slow it down if there's any velocity. But generally during the smaller storm events, you're not going to see much velocity. It's during these really intense storms that riprap is intended to really break it up and slow it down so that there's no erosion and it's dispersing the flows onto the neighboring property. Now from the neighboring property, again, it goes back into the what I want to call the natural path, which is just lawn. It's just going through lawns and grasses. It makes its way down towards the police station and enters into a collection system. All falls into the Otter Creek. And then just in terms of what's happening more on site for the residents, the new impervious surfaces that are put in place, essentially everything is sheet flowing. So the intent is not to concentrate runoff, is just to keep it as dispersed as we can. Off of the rooftops, there are stone drip. There will be stone drip edges underneath each of the overhangs from the building. So underneath the I don't want to say eaves, but under each side of the building, so the water's just going to fall onto these stone drip edges and disperse more. And I'd welcome any questions that the board may have.
Just the area that is, that you've enlarged that is not a pond, that area, that'll be just a grassed area?
That's correct. Yep, the intent is to keep that a mowed space.
So I guess my question would be is the neighbor to your north, if it started to pond there more than usual, what would be your second attempt to cure that problem?
If well, I guess if it's ponding on the neighboring property, I guess I would be suspicious that there was some type of terrain on that side of the fence that I'm not aware of that would be ponding that. You know, what we're doing is we're taking the lowest contour, or the highest contour on our end, and giving it more relief.
But
so
you
a
talked
place to
about
go.
a culvert of 12 inches.
Well, the 12-inch culvert underneath, you know, I've run, you know, generally for roadway design, for municipal roads design, you're doing a 25-year storm event. This is not a municipal roadway.
Right.
And a 15-inch culvert is sufficient for a 25-year event. This is a 12-inch.
My second question is that who's gonna own the pump station is that gonna be on town property, or is that gonna be on your property?
That will all be on town, that's all gonna be on Habitat property.
Okay, so you're gonna own and maintain the pump station?
That's the intent, yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, the sewer for the A building, that goes, will that be in that line as well, or does that go?
The sewer, thank you for saying that. The sewer for the A building was actually gonna be connecting into the existing service that served the prior building.
Okay.
So my question is that now you've acquired the additional land in the back from staff, does that change where we were before with this and moving forward?
Yep. It makes it a lot that's capable of being subdivided.
Okay.
Yep.
So-
It meets your minimum lot area for 2 dwelling units.
And the reason we're here is because they're back because we asked them to come back with a different plan.
Because, yeah, it's all in the preliminary
yeah.
determination. There were several different things you asked them for.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Okay.
Could I, John McLeod, we
Yes.
do have 2 of the design team members who are going to speak to the final point that was in your preliminary determination letter.
Thank you, Rich. Hi, I'm Emma McDonough, and I just wanted to highlight the driveway and parking plan again on the site. So as Brent mentioned, the driveway is 14 feet wide as requested by Fire Chief Shaw, and we have provided 2 parking stalls for each residence, so that this meets all requirements of section 270, part 2A. Each stall is 9 feet wide and 20 feet deep, and ample space for cars to pull out and back up and exit the driveway has been provided in the neighborhood. And that's all I had, unless there are any questions.
Any questions from the board at this time?
This doesn't really impact your application today, but I'm curious about the ownership of the land. Will your condominium agreement deal with the maintenance of this grassy area and the making sure the culvert is accessible to water at all times and things like that?
I'd have to defer that to
We definitely, after that, we definitely need to include items such as that in the condominium agreement. Again, it's a condominium, so each owner owns the buildings and they're responsible for the buildings. But you're right to point out that the land is held in common, and so issues such as drainage, culverts, maintenance of that which is not a building is in common.
Thank you. Other questions right now? Okay.
I'm Calder Birdsey. So as Ashley mentioned in his statement, we just want to address some of the concerns that have come up in the spring about some certain design elements in our project. So one of the things that have been mentioned in the spring was holding the front street edge. And this really hasn't changed as we presented to you last, but I just wanted to reiterate that the residence A will be holding that front street edge as it's set by the neighbors to the north and the south. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that front setback waiver was granted last spring. We discussed that, but that is to be determined, I guess. And from the feedback we got from you and from other neighbors, we felt that this was a fairly important aspect of this project, so we just want to reiterate that, and hopefully our proposal communicates that. In regards to the other design specifics that were brought up, there were concerns about the gable ends, the street-facing facades of the homes, and the trim that's used there. So, I don't know if you can see from here, the front walls extend about 4 feet to create that inset front porch. So that presents the thickness of the wall and the roof assembly, which we've now cased with rake trim and corner boards. It also shows the thickness of the siding and the roofing, as well as the flashing and the drip edge. So we feel that creates a substantial trim that is functional and simple, but also quite similar to something that we experienced along the street edge. Another point that was brought up in the spring had to do with the windows and the window trim. So right now, I believe you can tell from the rendering here, we're planning on using a window that has white trim with fairly wide rails, styles, and casing. We've looked at a number of different cost alternatives, but whatever we do finalize will have a very similar profile to that. And again, we feel like this maintains the simplicity of the window profile while also drawing a little bit more attention to the window openings, a bit more than we had in the prior design. And then one of the final points that was brought up in the spring had to do with the eaves and the eave overhangs. And I think you can tell from the sections in the elevations, if you want to bring this up, that we've extended those eaves to be approximately 4 inches. And so that'll cast a shadow on these exterior walls and give the eaves a little bit more presence while also balancing some concerns we had about ice damming. What with these being high-performance houses in the winter, as the snow melts along the roof, it comes outboard of insulated envelope and freeze and back up. And I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. It's fairly common in New England and has resulted in fairly modest eave overhangs, which can be seen around Middlebury and beyond. And it's also worth noting that these being high-performance houses, we have an air seal that goes up the walls and continues into the roof. That somewhat limits what we can actually overhang, structurally speaking. So we can't really have like a thick traditional overhang as you've seen in probably some other houses on the street. So overall, we feel like the design that we are proposing here maintains a fresh and clean appearance and optimistic forward-thinking design. And those things are important to us as well as we think important to the community, while also being compatible with the existing vernacular. So if there are any questions regarding those design elements, we're welcome to hear them now.
Is it the plan to have a collection system for the roofs, like gutters or anything like that on the eaves?
So there's as Brent mentioned, the 12-inch drip edge along the sides of the houses that will help the rain and drum.
Questions from the board?
The white trim is set in the plane of the outside edge of that gable
Yes.
shroud? Okay.
Any other questions at this time from the board? Any additional comments from the staff at this time?
Just out of curiosity, what's the final building material? Is it like is shown in the rendering?
Yes, so it's a standing seam, galvanized metal.
On the
Seam,
side?
Yeah, the sides of the roof.
And the wood on the gable
Yeah,
ends,
right.
same as last spring,
Yeah.
hasn't changed.
Just go over.
Yep. So this shows the weathered, showing up fine on the front.
See this?
More honey, yellow color like that.
Yes.
Is there any municipal stormwater on Seymour Street in this area?
On Seymour Street?
Yeah.
I believe out in the street.
Out the street?
Yeah.
Is there a reason they wouldn't have connected to it, or you wouldn't have connected to it?
Well, you know, there was actually some infrastructure improvements that were proposed as part of the water line.
Mhm.
So Seymour Street had some water line improvements, and then there was and then there was sewer infrastructure improvements proposed. But those the town never opted to move ahead on those. In terms of infrastructure along Seymour Street, you know, just, it looks as though primarily just culverts. Okay. But no catch basins or anything in that area.
No catch basins?
No, not along the street.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board at this time? If not, I'll open it up to the public. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes.
Hey there, Dave Hohenchild, I'm the neighbor to the north, 53 Seymour Street. Should I speak to the mic, or? I'm not sure if I
No,
should?
we have no.
hear you.
Okay,
Oh, Al, yeah,
Well, I can hear.
you can hear?
Yeah.
you got it okay?
You keep talking that way.
All right. Just poke me. First of all, I just want to say Habitat, we spoke about some of the concerns that we had as neighbors in the spring, and Habitat and John and his class responded to a lot of that. So I just want to thank you guys again for that. And in that context, one of my big issues was about the drainage, and I just want to go back to that again. So if you don't mind bringing that back, the utilities site plan. One thing just for the record, right now, when it rains hard, there is a pretty good stream running across our yard into this yard. And there's no ponding in our property. So just for the record, if
Not
there is
ponding right
ponding
now.
on our property after this happens, I'm pretty sure that'll be because of this project. And the way I'm looking at it with your contours, it does look like you're creating a detention pond at the same elevation as part of our backyard. Is that not true? I have a bunch of questions, so I don't know if I...
Sure, so it is not a detention pond. The inlet of the new culvert that's going in there is actually half a foot lower than the elevation that you're seeing in the contour, the 346 contour. So it's half a foot lower, a 2% slope across the property. So it really if I had a pointer, you can see there's actually two 346 contours that almost come together, just to the north, Sean. Yeah, right up here, right? So that really is the elevation that I'm working towards. So going from the 346 down to 345 and a half, so it's a half a foot across. It's roughly 2% slope in that area. So the intent is that it's not going to serve as a pond.
It would hold, it would drain.
We don't want to have ponds. We don't want to have ponds.
Great, me neither. That's good to hear. Thank you for clarifying that. I guess my other questions are just about the future when you're done and it's people living there. What are one is about the pump station and like backup power for that. In the event of a failure, in the event of a heavy storm and a power failure, I'm looking at a sewage pond actually, which is concerning. And then, so is there backup power plan for that pump station? And what happens if a 12-inch culvert is undersized? Like, what's my recourse? I guess I would ask the board if this city town staff this question.
Can I address that? Sure.
Maybe since you're recused, you can say something, but it's my understanding that there's...
Excuse me, could you give us your name?
Sorry, my name's Alex Carter.
Thank you.
As far as the septic tank overflowing if the power is out, if the power is out for a week and everybody was flushing the toilet all the time, that that'd be a problem? If there's a significant amount of, I don't know if it's a week or not, it depends on how many gallons I have to look at the tank. There's a lot of capacity beyond where the alarm goes. Like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a grinder pump at McIntyre Services on Exchange Street, which has failed. and there's a lot of capacity, as Alex said. The other thing is you call a septic company, come and pump out. So it's not a huge deal.
So does the pump station pump into a gravity line or a?
That's
for-
correct, yep.
Okay.
Into a gravity line. As part of the project, we're required to get a state water supply and wastewater disposal permit. And there's specific rules governing both the testing of these, so that, you know, if you do have an event where, for whatever reason, there's a significant amount of sewage in the tank itself, the tanks are actually tested for water tightness over the course of 24 hours, or pressure tests. Same thing with any of the pressurized lines; those are tested as well. And then there are requirements in terms of power outages. So, like these folks mentioned, there's additional capacity in that line, or here in the tank itself.
Okay, other questions? Kevin?
Kevin Verizon, 5557 Seymour. May I point to the
Sure.
map just as a question,
Sure.
if you'd be so
Absolutely.
kind as to answer? First of all, thank you to the Habitat people for everything that you've been addressing for us. And I understand that this portion coming down through here between where Dave's backyard and then mine is up here. But my question as the engineer on this, did you ascertain that the water is actually coming from this back hill?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What did you find with the ditch that used to be there that no longer is?
Well,
Because there was a full-scale ditch that was at least this high,
Okay.
that went from what presently is the Otterside condominiums,
Mhm.
all the way down to Lucius Shaw Lane.
Okay.
Over the course of the last 40 years plus, that ditch has totally filled in. And I've been in contact with Mr. Colazzati, and we've been having some discussions about what possibly could be done to mitigate this. But the brunt of the water is actually coming from the hill, and it's coming this way on this back edge. And one of my questions in the spring was, what is being looked at to mitigate that, since that is where the brunt of the water is coming from, not in the central portion of the lawns. But I can assure you that in the spring, where my property is up here, the water is coming straight from the hill all the way across, coming straight through my yard, and then fishtails through that
Right.
center
Right.
portion.
Which, so again, when I did the initial review of this, you know, we're looking at the area that is flowing to this point, right? So that did include the hills, and that was included in my figure when I said 3.5 acres. That's a portion of that hillside.
Right.
Right? So, if I understand you correctly, there was a ditch that was previously cut off part of that runoff that was actually preventing it from going into your yard.
Correct.
And the other side. So, in all reality, you know, we can't affect what's happening on someone else's property to actually have them put that ditch back.
Right.
You know, what we can say is we can do the best we can on our property to ensure that we're conveying that water the way it currently flows. And that's the intent that we're doing here.
Other questions or comments?
I'd like to just note, if we're going to be discussing concerns about water flow from the north property, from Dave's property on ours, and construction is going to be happening on the north property, our north abutters property, that we should be very careful to document the existing conditions and ensure that nothing about that construction somehow changes the topography that would adversely impact or change Brent's civil engineering design here.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
On the design, Natalie Peters, I'm
Thank
on
you.
the design review board. We reviewed the design for this project early on. It's quite different now. I'd like to go on record as saying that the original design was very sophisticated, done very well by the college students, and took a great deal of consideration in hand around how they live on the lot and how the two families would operate.
when you pull the one house up and take the driveway away from the north, you're, I think, imposing on life in the city, yeah, or in the site, sorry, not city, we'll start with C's and S's. Anyway, my intent is to let you know that Design Advisory very much supported the original design, are not so happy with the way it has been reconfigured, although I understand there's a lot more been involved with the drainage and whatnot. So just to be on record around Design Advisory's intent and recommendation from the beginning that came to you, which I hope was strong in our support of what they originally brought, especially around how the houses are placed on the lot. There was an original smaller building and a rock wall across the front, which was exceptionally well done and would have worked well in the neighborhood. And then having the driveway to the north was also a plus because the southlands are where the sunshine is and where families can use the lots rather than gravel driveway. So those are two pieces that Design Advisory especially emphasized and were concerned about, and I want that to be on record.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. The public participation part of the hearing. Are there any more questions from the board at this time of the applicants?
Who's gonna own the condominium association?
The two homeowners.
Yeah, I know that's standard, but I want to be careful about this, but you've got people that may not perform, so you've got a vacant property, and then there's an issue. How are you gonna get money out of them to fix the issue?
I guess that's for us to worry about, isn't it?
Well, I would say it was for them to worry about, but if you guys aren't gonna own it, then it's our worry. If they,
Which is true in every building in this town, true? I mean, why is this different? Why are you pointing the finger at us? Why don't they
I'm
want-
just asking who's gonna own it.
Well, it's a good question, Gary, but isn't it answered?
Well, what do you, okay, the answer, I guess what I'm asking is, who's gonna step up and fix the emergencies? And if somebody is not in there anymore, they haven't performed their part of the agreement. Well, that's what I wondered.
We can't guarantee.
We hold the, oh, I see, we hold the mortgage.
The Board
We
of
hold-
Habitat
Yeah, we
maintains
hold the
the
mortgage.
mortgages.
So it would be on us.
Okay.
That's right. Good point. Thank you, sorry.
Other questions?
I was a little unclear, Brent, when you said that, so Public Works saw the force main and the grinder?
Yes, they did. Yeah, well, they didn't review the grind, they're not really concerned about the grinder pump station itself. They're more concerned about where we're tying into the street, and how we're connecting it to this road. They're pretty much somewhat hands-off when it comes to work on private property.
Right.
You did say you're putting a new water line from the present main to the back house, you're not gonna use the same line?
That's correct, because it's such a long run.
Right.
The 3/4 inch line that currently crosses the street, it's not sufficient to serve both, so we have to run a new one.
And that water line is in the road?
It's on the east side, yeah.
It's
Seymour,
sad that
it's
we have to
very
take,
paved, I think it's
to
botched,
start
but-
cutting sections out of that road after we just spend the money to make it whole and black.
It is actually just on the east side, so there may be a possibility that they can push a,
I hope so. I really would hate to see it cut across that road. It's never right, you know that.
So the homeowners association will be responsible for the grounds keeping? Or will each individual owner of the house be responsible for their portion?
That would be a question for Habitat in terms of maintenance.
Association.
That would be part of the agreement, part of the structure of the legal agreement.
Okay. And so we don't really need a delineation between the two lots of what portion would go to, what portion of lawn or whatever it is would go to one house versus the other.
I would think so.
You would?
That's yet to be defined.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Any other questions from the board at this time? Okay. Go ahead, Donald.
I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered testimony presented at the public hearing on November 5th, approve this request for setback waiver, subdivision, and historic review of 2 homes to be constructed as shown on the application and site plan submitted for parcel 21.001 located at 51 Seymour Street.
Is there a second to the motion? Then moved in second. Further discussion on the motion?
Can I ask who seconded it?
I second
Gary.
Okay, thank you.
I think that since we're having deliberative session on 2 other issues, we should consider this motion after that time in case we think of anything else we need to consider and include in it.
After we vote on this.
No,
There's a motion on the floor.
I know, and that's
Second.
my comment on the motion.
Any other comments on the motion?
I agree with Ann that a deliberative session would be useful. Although, I have to say that that's not what I expected to see when we asked this question.
Okay.
David, could you repeat that, please?
I said I agree with Ann that a deliberative session would be useful in case there are any conditions or finer points we need to craft the motion. That said, I saw what I expected to see when we asked the questions we asked at the last meeting today.
Thanks.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. The motion has been withdrawn, the second has been withdrawn. Is there another motion?
I move that we make a decision about this project after discussion in deliberative session.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on that motion.
So my question would be, is do we want to have somebody from the engineering or Habitat to be here so that they can answer the questions that we might come up with in deliberative session?
No.
No.
Okay.
Any other questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
One opposition. Motion is carried. So we will be moving into deliberative session now and discussing 3 of the cases. Thank you very much.
We have to ask if there's any other consent or anything.
Gosh.
Ready?
Habitat, yeah.
Okay. We have moved out of deliberative session, and I will entertain a motion on the second item on our agenda tonight, the application by GLR LLC. Is there a motion?
I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of November 5th, 2018, approve this request for 2-lot subdivision and setback waiver for a planned unit development at parcel 28176 located at 55 Middle Road North, with the caveat that the easement shown on the survey be 30 feet.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
David seconded it. The other David. Any comment or question on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I voted for it, did I get enough grief from Kevin tonight?
I didn't hear that. Is that,
I wasn't talking to you.
I know.
He was being very positive.
Very supportive.
Okay.
Trying to throw me under the bus,
Don't you?
always.
Don't you know who I am?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Okay. The next item is the application concerning the Blue Spruce Motel. Is there a motion?
I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the complaint submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of November 5th, 2018, determines that the Blue Spruce Motel located at 2428 Route 7 South on parcel number 08:146 has been abandoned and inadequately maintained as provided for in section 753(2). Further, we order the owners of the Blue Spruce Motel property to remove all fire damaged materials and cover over or fill any excavation or basement to normal grade and secure the remainder of the structures at the expense of the owners.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think we should make reference in the motion, the cabins in the back.
It's,
I would
I
agree
think
that
it's in
secure the
there.
remaining structures should mean the cabins in the back.
Okay. All right. Bless you. Any other? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item is the application by Habitat for Humanity of Addison County. Is there a motion?
I move that the Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing on November 5th, 2018, approve this request for front setback waiver, subdivision, and historic review of 2 homes to be constructed as shown on the application and site plan submitted. Parcel 21001, located at 51 Seymour Street.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? John is abstaining. All ayes. Motion's carried. Other business?
Move to adjourn. Or wait.
I'm guessing, I'm sorry, one point, I'm guessing those guys are probably out having a beer. Would anybody mind if I'm friends with John.
Yeah, go for it.
socially.
Help him
Not
sleep better
physically.
tonight.
Oh, the
I was
art,
just gonna let him know that.
Oh, sure.
that's the motion, and they can get different.
try to buy a beer too.
Nope, no beer. I guess, thank you.
Other business? Anything else from anybody? Our next meeting is
26.
26,
Yep.
and we have a full agenda.
We have 2 items right now, Greg's Market and then the Aurora School. And I will get you that information.
I may be
Yeah,
sick
know
on
you're
the
leaving, so you
26th.
want it. Can I email it or should I just send it to you?
Don't do that to me, Tony.
You can email it, and then if you mail it at the normal time, if all goes well, I'll be home by 2 o'clock that Monday afternoon, and I'll be able to look at the paper things, having looked online at what I can.
Okay.
I'm leaving on a week from Wednesday.
I'll get you I don't mean to, but I'll try to get you this information, what I have to date now, and
Okay,
then
thank
the rest of it. That way you can look at it before your vacation.
Thank you.
You gonna have a quorum on the 26th?
I will be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here unless I'm derails.
John and David, you'll be here as you know now.
Seems to
I'm driving
happen.
back from Boston, so I'll probably be screeching in at 6:45.
Anything else in other business? Okay, do we want to adjourn now so that, is there a motion to adjourn? Moved and adjourned, is there a second? Moved and second, discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. We're adjourned, Kathy, thank you.